What's up, guys? Welcome back to Freddy and Friends. Trying to think how to introduce this next gentleman I have here. We've been friends for quite some time, actually, since I've been living in Los Angeles, maybe 7 or 8 years. I've known this dude. And he's one of the most prolific drummers in extreme drumming technique on the planet. And privileged to have him as my friend and have him on the show. And without further ado, James Payne.
Thank you very much for having me. How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
A lot of stories we have.
Yes.
We've been going at this for a while.
Yes, we do.
I wanted to say that I got you to thank for putting me in this chair, you know.
How so?
Well, I mean, you know, we talked about doing podcasts and stuff back in the day. We did some stuff.
Yes.
And I realized because of doing that, I actually like this.
Okay, that's awesome.
So it was, thank you.
That's great because the conversation went like, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And you were like, I can try. And so it's awesome to hear that you like it.
Yeah, no, and it just kind of happened. But yeah, me and you go back for a while, man. I remember first time meeting you in LA, we had coffee.
Yes.
And you know, I was just kind of like, who the hell is this dude, man? Because you kind of blew into the scene. And I'm a technique nerd, and you're a technique nerd. And I was just like, to be quite honest, I didn't really care about your feet because I was never, you know, I never really played double bass and stuff, and your feet are nuts. But when I saw you doing a lot of the stone killer stuff and a lot of the hand technique stuff, I was like, this dude's got it, man, and I want to meet this guy. So, but anyway, that's how we met.
I remember that.
Yeah,
There was a much better weather than today.
Yeah, the few times that it rains in this town. But yeah, I mean, so, and then from there we hit it off. I mean, we've played together, we've done clinics together, we've hung out many times.
Yes.
All over the world, and
it's always a good time.
Yeah, it's always a good time. So, welcome back to LA. You've been on tour, right?
Yes, we did a European run in August, and then did a US run in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
And going back out in 2026?
Yes, February.
You're just with Kataklysm now? Are you still with Hiss, or?
Well, Hiss From The Moat is like my project.
Is it your band?
It's my band.
That's your band. Okay.
I've started the band with a friend of mine back in 2007, 2006. And then we all kind of got busy with other stuff. So it became more of a, whenever we have time, we write something. And if something happens, great. If not, we still have fun writing music. And, you know, but it's because everybody's also doing other things. It's not a super active band. Yeah. So mainly Kataklysm is, you know, my priority. I'm also doing XDO, which is basically the same lineup. Okay. But we do it with a extra band member. Yeah. And we do a very different style of music, though. It's more symphonic death metal, but it's way more groovy. Yeah. So it's a challenge for me.
So that's actually, you know, I wanted to get into that with you because I remember when we first started hanging out, I was kind of fascinated with the fact that you had told me, and if I'm wrong here, correct me, but I believe this is true, and I've kind of taken this with me whenever I meet drummers that are in the same space as you, and it's a very popular niche right now, as we know. You had said to me, you said that, you know, you just started playing metal because you loved the music, and you just only played that music. Yeah. And there was no other kind of drum education other than just right into this extreme form of drumming that you had to figure out how to make your body work like that. Yeah. I found that very interesting, being that, you know, I'm someone that was kind of like, it was drums first, it was jazz, it was rock, it was this, it was that, it was all this technique, all learning all these styles, and then like evolving as a drummer. But I hear that story a lot with a lot of the metal guys. Yeah. They're just like, before they're drummers, they're just hooked onto that music, and then they just walk right into the drum thing. And I remember you saying that, like, bro, I struggle to play normal shit.
Yeah.
Like that's not my strong point. I mean, but like really weak at it.
Yeah.
How is that going for you years later?
I have such a weird path with music and drumming because, like, as you said, like I was a rebel, and I think in my heart I'm still always against any system that I have in front of me.
Yeah.
And music was just one of the many things that I was doing. I was doing skateboard. I was doing other creative stuff. And music just kind of like, I had friends that started bands and blah blah blah, and so they called me to play, and so I was never really like, I never really thought about having an academic path of music, going through jazz and all that stuff. Actually, every time somebody would kind of like introduce me into that world, I was always like, I don't care, like why would I even exactly. So but strangely enough, like what happened was that the more I got into the music and the drumming world, the more I got closer and closer to even the jazz community. I had the opportunity to talk and spend time with a like very successful jazz drummers, and so I took a lot of, for example, my fit technique comes from the jazz hands technique. So at one point it kind of like overlapped, but by not mistake, but just randomly. I never looked for it. I just kind of like got into those situations, and then so somehow I'm connected to that world. And honestly, a lot of those guys always told me similar stories where they're like, yeah, I'm a jazz drummer or whatever, but I was just listening to music and trying to do what I didn't even see what Buddy Rich was doing, was Chapin or these guys. I just had like vinyls or album or on the radio, because there was even no TV for some people. And so I was like, you know what, we're not so different, because I kind of did the same. And the reason why I came up with a lot of my instructional stuff, it's because I just kind of like tried to figure out my own way of doing things. And then at first I thought everybody was doing it in that way.
Right.
And then when I started talking to other,
they're not
successful professional extreme metal drummers, they were like, no, that's not my approach at all. And I was like, oh.
Well, what attracted me to your playing, because, I taught myself Moeller, and I used the shit out of Moeller. And, as you know, like, I've been obsessed with that technique. You were one of the only guys back then that I saw doing that kind of music that was phenomenal Moeller technique, right? But talking about like how to get that technique to actually go to the next level, that's what really turned me on about it. And then when we started talking, I mean, we connected on that because, the motion, you speak a lot about, and I think I stole this from you because I tell this to people, and this is so true. You talk about deactivating the muscles, essentially, when you're playing, at high speed for extended periods of time. And, I've always done that naturally, but most people don't know how to do that or even understand what that really is. But it's very simple, the concept, and there's a feeling to it. But you were one of the only people that and now people are talking about it more, but you were the only guy that, aside from myself, that I knew that was kind of like exploring that, like, well, you can't get tight. You have to keep this thing loose. How do you do that? How do you send the signal to deactivate that muscle? Well, that's a big thing.
It is, and that's part of like me almost randomly figuring these things out. I think one part was just like my body is not designed to sustain a lot of physical effort and physical so I think while I was developing my technique, every time my body would start to struggle with emotions, it would find a way to avoid that, kind of like a lazy thing. And so I always followed that because it made sense to me that, it felt better. And so I thought this is probably how it's supposed to feel every time, even at higher speed. And so, and then I've done this for many years, and then I started teaching, and I was kind of like seeing similar patterns happening to other drummers. So I started thinking, okay, there's something here, you know, there is that. And still I was convinced that everybody was doing it in that way. And that was the right way for everybody. And then I discovered it wasn't that case. And then I saw somebody sent me a video about Orally, this biomechanic research engineer that was doing this experiment or this research on drummers for feet ankle motion.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go there. I want to be part of this. Because
is this the one that they hooked you up to all
Yes. So I did that, and that's where actually they were talking about specifically the activation of the
so it was
muscles.
proven though. I mean, they saw it.
Exactly. For me, it was always you have to stay relaxed, which is a vague.
That doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything because a lot of my students were like, but I still have to hold a stick.
Right.
Like if I'm completely relaxed, like up to one point. And so hearing these terms of activation and deactivation of the muscles and all that stuff made way more sense because it's more precise and more specific. And especially in an instructional world, words matter. And so 100%. The way you explain and say concepts make a big difference in the learning process. So I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And so we saw through this experiment how, well, this was specifically on the ankle motion.
Yes.
So we saw how the shin muscle will activate on the up motion and then deactivate on the down motion of the foot, and the calf muscle would be the opposite.
Picks up the slack, yeah.
And so there was this on and off alternation of the activation and deactivation of the muscles. And so it kind of confirmed the theory that I was, trying to figure out, but without that type of data, it's impossible. So that's actually where I got the term. And then because I do a lot of content, I, spread it out like a maniac every week.
I know. I'm getting inundated with your
I'm sorry, I apologize.
With your content. No, kidding.
Yeah. So and that's that and other concepts because they help me in the first place to understand better certain things. I think yes, it's extremely important. And the Muller, like, and at one point you also realize how all these different techniques and different motions, they all conceptually work in the same way.
Yeah.
And funny enough, while I was doing all this research, I ended up getting into some Bruce Lee concepts and philosophies, of and I understood how it generates so much power with very little
motion,
with very little space. It's because it was the whipping motion, so it was generating the energy through the motion and not through explosive power. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what we do on the instrument. And so I this is something that you can really then, like, it's about, we applied in the drumming world, but it's something that it's a concept that you can apply and you can find in so many other areas. And I think that's one of the issues, I think, that not issue, but it's one of the things about drummers, from my experience, that we are very only focused on the instrument, that we don't take any, like, it's very hard to find somebody that takes concepts from other fields and put it in this instrument. And instead, another thing that happened to me was finding a lot of the physical rehabilitation literature for people that had to relearn how to walk or things like that. And everything that it's written there, it's what we're doing on the drums when we developed.
You went deep into that shit. I mean, you're essentially a researcher. I mean, you're just...
I did spend a lot of time
very dialed in,
like trying to understand this stuff, but also because it became so fascinating that for me it wasn't only for the drums. It was just like I am gonna apply this on the drums, but then I wanted to know more and more and more, so I went on.
It's the most physical instrument, right? You would think people would think about the body and how it relates to the instrument. I mean, if you look at a guitar player, I mean, it's really just some finger stuff, right? It's minimal compared to And when you talk about interesting enough, when you move into the double bass drum world, then there's a balance issue on the body, right? Because then there's a whole other part that comes into play. So it's very, very body centric.
Yeah. And there's the misconception a lot of the times that people say, well, it's like being an athlete. On one side it is, but on the other it's the opposite, in the sense that an athlete, you usually want to, you need a technique, but then athletes most of the times are very focused and concentrated on explosive power and muscles. Here you have to do the opposite, right? With the deactivation thing, like we saw that the more the muscles are deactivated during the motion,
the more stamina,
the better the technique.
Yeah.
So you can actually start to understand what does it mean to have good technique, right? It's efficiency on the body, and it's taking advantage of external forces. While in the athlete world, most of the times it's the opposite, because you need strength. It's about performing your physicality.
Well, the thing about the drums, and I think a lot of people miss this, drummers included, and you and I will definitely agree on this, is that rebound is the drum's gift to the body.
And the spring of the pedal.
And the spring of the pedal, right. Okay, fair enough. But that's the gift.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to learn how to work with. And I've always said, I've never been a fan of, if we're just talking about hands, like playing on pillows, playing on, dead pads. I think it's fine, but I think that playing on a highly rebounding surface is actually the better way to do it, because there's also a negative resistance that you have to work against on the rebound. It's subtle, but to control that, it requires some coordination, some muscle stimulation, stuff like that. I just always found that to be the way, because that is what gives you the flow. And when I do some of the techniques that I do on my left hand, I always kind of describe it, and it may be wrong, but like almost like a pendulum, where it almost is working itself. If you watch how my left hand works, and maybe it's not as fast as the fastest guys, but it moves by itself. Once I get it going. That's extremely important. And it's like I could do it forever.
Yeah, I call that the synchronization.
Exactly.
To the external forces, which is the rebound or the spring in our case. Yes. And it's I've never really practiced or developed my technique on pillows or surfaces. But then I was talking to, like, in particular, Janne from Dark Funeral, and he's like a guy that he wakes up in the morning or early afternoon on tour, and he goes and plays sound check. I hope I can say this. I hope it doesn't get mad at me, because
it's okay.
I say this, but
you say whatever you want on Freddy and Friends.
I'm always impressed, because when I tour with him, because he just like wakes up, goes on the drums to do the sound check, and he can play like 300 BPMs. Like a maniac, and then goes and takes his coffee. And I was fascinated by that, because I was like, how does that work? So I told him, how did you practice? And he said, well, I did a lot of stuff on mattresses and pillows. And I was like, I want to know, how does that work? And what I did it, and what I understood and found out, was that when you are practicing on surfaces that don't have rebound, the goal is to keep your hands and fingers especially as deactivated as possible.
Sure.
And so that was all the work. And so it still somehow worked in the, at first I thought that's just to kind of like make the hands stronger or work on the muscles. Instead, it was still like, as you were saying, like a resistance, and still, instead of tensing up, you want to relax.
You're trying to get that relaxed feeling while you're fighting a harder thing to play.
Then I got it, and I was like, and it's similar to probably what I was doing with heavy sticks. I used to practice with very heavy sticks.
Well, that's what I do.
Always with the concept of not feeling the weight of the stick, so using the rebound. Yeah,
you're not, like, the thing about drumming is, like, no matter how fast or how long you can play, how hard you can play, you don't ever really see that kind of, you don't see the physicality improve on people. Like, you're not like usually built, and like it makes no difference. And like people always ask, like, well, if I build the muscles, like, can I play faster or harder? Probably not.
No, because
nothing to do with that.
It would mean that bodybuilders will be faster drummers.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't work like that.
That's what I'm saying. Most of the guys that are in your field are, not like huge dudes. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, how the hell can this guy do that? I think one of the things that's concerning for me, though, is, I don't have this concern with you, because obviously you have this mastered with the technical synchronicity, right? But I do think guys that are in the extreme drumming space, I don't think that all of them are going to make it. I don't think that the longevity because I do think that most of them are powering through it. And when you start, and a lot of times we have to. I always have to power through things. If you're playing live, you're doing tracks, recording. There's a lot of there's a lot of force. I don't know, there's a book called Power versus Force. It's an amazing book. Force is always worse. Power is good. But when you have to really force things, there's only a certain amount of time you can do that. And when you have to force things night after night, year after year, so forth and so on, you won't be able to do it forever.
Yeah. Your body will pay a toll.
The body will, and drums are, we're seeing that now. You're seeing a lot of young guys getting called in for the gigs of, some of the legacy bands, and even some of the younger bands. Like, the drummers just ain't lasting.
Yeah.
And whether it doesn't even have to be metal. I mean, it's either their hands are busted up, their backs are broken, they can't hack it anymore.
Yeah.
Back to what you said, like, got to think less about the instrument and more about the body to play this instrument.
Yeah. I mean, for example, for me, one of the most important things before I practice, before I play, before I do anything on drums is warming up, right? And warming up, to me, it's not only having my blood flowing in the right areas,
right,
to be prepared to take the shock of the performance. It's also like connecting with
100%.
the instrument, right? So connect, like sitting down, because when you're on tour, there's 3,000 things happening, and then you find yourself, half an hour before the show. And
before you know it, and that's all you have now to.
And now you have to switch into, performance mode after the craziness of all the travel and everything, and it's not easy.
No,
Not. And so my Zen thing, which I'm even though I'm not a Zen person at all, but my ritual is, okay, now you go, you change, you put stage clothes, and you go and sit down on my pads, and I just feel how my body feels in that moment. And I start from there, and I always say this, my warm-ups, in my opinion, should always start from in a different way, because one day your body will feel, one day you sit down, everything works, and you're just on fire. 10 minutes, you're ready, you can destroy everything. Some days you need 30, 40 minutes before you get a decent feeling of your body. And so I understand where my body is, how long it takes for my brain to kind of like shut all the day stuff and focus on the instrument, and also finding the motivation every day to give 110% on stage, and all these things are. So the warm-ups are very important, because I just sit down with myself, but I observe myself, I feel my body, and I just start from there. Maybe some days slower, some days faster, some day I can swivel right away, some day I have to start with ankle motion a little bit, and then get into swivel, and that's very important. I think that is one of the reasons why I personally never had injuries from drums.
I believe it.
And it's just this extra awareness of my body, and I think it was the same reason why I developed the body motions so spontaneously. I can say, when I was starting off, it's probably because I'm really aware of my body, and I just listen to my hand, and if my left hand doesn't work, I get mad, but I'm not going to force through the constant contraction or constant tension of the hand, because I know it doesn't take me anywhere. And so these type of things, I think, are important, and even just developing the feeling of like this type of things, it's already something that you have to learn to do. Like,
as I was saying earlier, we've done some clinics together. You've seen me in action. I do an abridged version, but I got 10 minutes of stretching and twisting and all kinds of shit that I show people to do before they actually sit down on the kit. It's highly important. I've been playing for 40 years, and I wish I was always doing it that way. I've probably been doing that for maybe the last 10, 15. I don't really know how long. But as I've gotten older, it's taken longer and longer and longer to warm up. Like you said, sometimes I could sit down and it'll just flow nicely, but it's dependent on what I'm trying to do. But most of the time, this is 20 minutes, 30 minutes of prepping the body to actually do what I need to do. And I'm basically just doing recordings and stuff now. So, it's just like, even for that. And like the idiot in me still sits down sometimes and tries to go destroy it. And then I catch myself and I'm like, whoa, because I'll feel it immediately. I'll be forcing it, and the muscles will be locked up, and I'll be playing through it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
We got to go back. We got to put the metronome on like 100 and just fucking. We got to. Yeah. It's so important. And nobody does it. Nobody's doing it.
Well, I hope my students are doing it because I will be mad at them.
But I think people are turned on to it a little bit more, and it's a message I spread all the time. You got to do that shit.
It does take discipline. I mean, that's what I've been doing almost every day of my life for the last 15 years.
Right. Exactly.
And I do stone killers. I have several sets of stone killers.
That's all you need to do.
I sit down on the kit. That's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm honest, sometimes I just go on the drums and do these stone killers on the drums.
You do them on the drums,
I should do it on the pads first, because even just the first hits, if you're hitting like with a piece of wood, a piece of iron, like the rim shot or whatever, it's a shock to the body. So 100%. Instead, if you have pads, rubber pads, it's a little bit of softer landing for the first 5-10 minutes, but still it works. I mean, I really hate that feeling that you just described of, forcing through. I hate that. When I feel that, for me, it's almost like the day is gone. Yeah. Like I know I will have a hard time recovering from that tension, because
it's a lot.
I try to avoid that at all costs. I hate that.
It's a lot. I mean, look, all instruments require an incredible amount of determination, persistence, hours and hours of practice. As I get older and the things that I'm involved in, I don't have the time anymore that I used to have. The golden days where you could play 8 hours a day and practice when you're a kid, and then I don't have that kind of time anymore. So you have to get a very focused approach to it. And if it's going to require 20 minutes of stone killers before you actually play for an hour or whatever you got to do, then that's what you got to do. Yeah. And that's the window you have. It's frustrating though, It's frustrating because I always think about there's so many. As a student myself, it's like there's so many things I still want to learn. And I was talking to you about traditional grip blast beats, and we were messing around with that.
Absolutely.
But can I do it? Yeah. Do I need to fucking practice it for a long time to be able to do it well? Absolutely. Do I have that kind of time? No, I do not. So it's where do you spend your time? And for me, it's just coming back to, you got to do what's important in the moment, and that's take care of the body.
Yeah.
Because you ain't going to be able to do anything if that goes.
And I remember when I was 20-something, people were telling me, you can do this now, but when you're going to be close to your 40s, whatever, you're not going to... And honestly, I feel like I'm at the peak of my... I can play 300 BPMs now in an easier way that I've ever done. And I remember when I was 27, 28, I couldn't play 300 BPMs. I could get close to, 290 something, but never now I really feel it in my wrists, in my swivel, and I'm way more so it's interesting how the more, just because I think I'm keeping all these warm-ups and my technique always in check, because I also don't have time to practice anymore, unfortunately. But I've never really practiced 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
I've always practiced an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, maximum. Because I don't think anybody can really practice 8 hours a day. You can play 8 hours a day, but not practice.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can find an hour and a half, 4 or 5 days a week to practice, you can do a lot.
100%.
100%. But you have to know exactly what you want to do, and you have to, if you sit down and you start to jam, and then you have to think of, today maybe I practice this and that, you're going to get lost immediately. If you have a plan and you go in execution mode, an hour and a half is a lot of time that you
absolutely can especially if you're working very strategically. Yeah.
Yes.
I promised in the beginning, I was talking to James, and I said, we're not going to get too technical. We're not going to nerd out too much on drums. And I just fucking can't help it, dude.
Yeah, so it's my fault. For sure.
I have questions. It is definitely your fault. I mean, it's just I knew what I was getting into. When you're talking about playing 300 BPM and stuff, at what point, so you and me both agree we're big wrist guys until you can no longer use the wrist. At what point do you say that you have to kind of start really incorporating the fingers into If we're just talking hands.
Yeah. So before I thought that after 280, fingers were almost necessary.
Wow. I didn't think you were going to even, I thought you were going to be around 260 or something like that.
So from my experience, I could play 260 with my wrists.
Wow.
Already in like 2013, 2014.
Holy shit.
And there was a weird thing for me that I knew that 260 was my limit because I could feel it like in my hands and in my feet. When I would get to 260 BPMs, I knew that after that my body would kind of start to shut down.
Yeah.
I could play 270, 280 for very short bursts, but not, consistently.
Yeah.
And so psychologically, that was my limit. So psychologically, my body would also shut down at 270.
Yeah.
Then I came to the US, I joined another band. They were playing faster songs. And I always thought, in certain parts, I cannot play this. So I was using fingers. And then we weren't using a metronome with this band. So one day somebody puts a video on YouTube. I looked the video and I realized that was 290.
You were playing 290, you didn't even know.
And I didn't know.
Yeah.
I could. And then after I saw that video, I knew I could. So my body kind of
so you say the whole thing was psychological.
A lot of it
is psychological. Here.
Absolutely. Especially because, as we were saying, this is not about muscular strength, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's something else
so
that
you could
allows
play 260, you could probably play 270, 280. You could keep going to a certain point.
And that was also because I remember I could play 250 comfortably, and then after that, trying 260, my body would shut down for a period of time when I was developing this. And I was like, but 10 beats per minute more, it's not big of a difference. Why is my body shutting down like that? Then I worked, and I got to the 260, and that was my new limit. And I thought this is really my limit, especially because of the sound that I wanted. I didn't want, too thin sound. I still wanted a good density of sound. So, and so my idea was that after, and so working on my technique, I kind of got to 280 with the wrists. And I was like, after that, you have to it's so fast that you have to use the fingers. But honestly, and then talking again with Janne, it was like, and maybe also with Riccardo Merlini, and they were like, no, I use my wrists at 300 and whatever. And I was like, wow, that's so weird. And I gotta say, like, when I play around 300, I still feel like my fingers are starting to get involved. And I think you do need a little bit of fingers after 280.
No, for sure.
But I also think that if you practice, I don't spend a lot of time on this.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah.
But I think that you spend enough time, you can get to 300 even with the wrists. It's just about how fast. So the faster the speed, the shorter the motion, the faster the activation and deactivation. So activating and deactivating bigger muscles, meaning that the wrist would be a bigger muscle group than activating and deactivating the fingers, the easier it is to go in a smaller muscle. So instinctively, your fingers would take over because it's less work for the body to activate and deactivate and blah, blah. But if you practice enough, you can practice these very short wrist motions and you can get to 300 BPM with your wrists.
Well, back onto the deactivating and activating. So when I'm playing, I can be cognizant of when I use my forearm to actually, so if we're talking match grip, right? And I teach this and I show people this all the time. I use the forearm as a gauge. If when I'm playing, I can show it now. Like if I see this jiggling, I'm doing it right. Mm-hmm. If I see this tight, then this brachialis muscle is engaged too much. But the question that I have is that I could pay attention and look at that and understand that that's happening. But is there a way that the mind actually can switch as you're really revving up and you're really starting to play and you can't really focus on whether or not your wrists are jiggling?
Yeah.
Is the mind able to make those? Well, I guess yes, right? I mean, because you're able to do it.
Yeah, because it's muscular isolation, so you want to make sure that you're using the right part of the body, like the right muscle group. So as I was saying before, it's hard to, when you get to certain speeds and like muscle groups that are like fingers and wrists, which are very similar areas. it's hard to really understand if you're using the right and you're training the right part, like that you're not involving 20-30% of finger motion, that it's kind of cheating on the wrist when you're practicing the wrist. But through practicing and training this stuff, at one point you really understand, you really feel immediately when the fingers are joining, and when like, and you can, you know, control whatever, like if the finger starts to join in, you feel it and you control that part, and you go like, no, just so it's muscular isolation. It's a lot of work when you get to that level of speed, and it takes time.
It's the brain training. It's the brain training. It happens subconsciously because you've made it happen subconsciously. Because
what happens is that when you do a motion, the brain sends an input to that area, and then the body sends a feedback back to the brain, and this is the process of you know. And so the cleaner the feedback that you send back to the brain, meaning the better quality of motion you do when you're practicing and playing, the more the brain will be able to read this feedback, because there's no noise. Because if there's a little bit of hands, a little tension of the thumb, and a little bit of finger, and a little bit of wrist, it's a lot of noise, and it's hard for the brain to understand exactly what signal. And so I always go back to slower speed or comfort speed, or practicing with no gear and just kind of like do the motions without the sticks and without the pedals to really feel what it means.
So I kind of feel like I do a lot of the motions without the sticks.
Yeah.
Just in the air, making sure the wrists, everything's moving right, checking my arms and stuff. I have to so one of the things I do practice when I do practice is actually match grip, which is a weak area for me in my left hand. Now, I mean, if you saw me playing normally in match grip, you wouldn't necessarily see that there's any problem. But to the level that I can play traditional grip, it's not there.
Yeah, you feel it.
It's not there. I mean, I struggle to. I won't dare play single strokes and anything at any kind of speed with match grip these days. I can work on it. Like I said, I do. I'm a believer that we can probably all achieve most of this shit.
Yes.
Like if you want to play 300 BPM, you most likely can do it, because there's really not a physical limitation.
No.
Or a muscular limitation. It's just about how bad you want it and how bad you're going to strategize to work on it and get there. Yeah. But that being said,
and a lot of people on the internet are just like dive into this quickly. A lot of people on the internet, I see on my videos, a lot of comments on you either have it or not.
Yeah.
And this type of things, and just even just the mental approach of, you can do it if you want.
Sure.
It's so liberating. Sure. So it is not true unless you don't have some type of condition.
Right.
It is not true that you either have it or not, because we
can teach all this stuff.
Then we can say that there's people that might get to certain speed faster than other. Like it takes less time to learn certain things and other, but everybody can get there. And it depends more of this psychological and thing, like the way you're practicing and the things you know, more than the body and the physical part.
While we're on that, do you think it's getting to be a little too much like a sport, though? Like if you look at the landscape, and we have a lot of the same friends and stuff, like, do you think people are just chasing speed and just really that's all they give a shit about? And if you look at like the audience, like they're just kind of like, they only care about playing 300 plus and all this shit. Like there's really, I have a problem with that, because it really is taking away from what the whole thing is all about. I mean, if you need to do that for the music that you need to serve, then that's what you got to do. But there's a whole other thing out there.
Well, I think we get into a culture thing, like the times that we're living in, where if you see somebody playing fast and powerful,
it's automatically amazing.
You understand it,
right?
And so you can kind of like quantize what that means. Like it's like you can calculate it, and you can you understand that's right. Kind of like Guinness of record.
You understand that's difficult.
Yes, and so you appreciate that,
exactly.
And you respect that, and so you're impressed by that. Art, it's a different thing. art is not about the skills.
Right.
It's about what you can do with those skills, and if you can touch people, and so I think it's a very different thing. And when it works in way bigger numbers for that reason, because you touch the soul of people somehow. It doesn't matter if you're angry and you're doing Slipknot or you're, you know. But I feel like my problem nowadays is more. It's not a problem, but what I observe.
No, tell us, James, please.
Yeah, my problem now. Let's make this about me now. No, but what I observe is that we live in a marketing world where the quantity. It's more understood than the quality. Right. There's a lack of understanding of quality. So when 100%. I talk about quality of motion, quality of sound, quality of performance, it's vague and generic. And people are not, and we're also used to, we are educated visually now because our social media the video starts with no audio, with no music, and so we are visually drawn to things. And so before
it was the context is gone.
Yeah, before you didn't bring your screen. I'm not talking about 1940. I'm talking about 2000. Yeah, I don't know, 10 12, 13. Like you would have your iPod and stuff like that. It was still listening. You would use your ears to kind of like feel something. Now it's very visually oriented. So what we can recognize and we can understand visually, and our brain is wired to, it has a lot of wiring for the visual part of our system. So it's very stimulated, it's very trained, and so we have to see things, and I think that has an impact on everything that we're doing. So marketing is like you have to draw attention of people, and hey, let's do this, and then the numbers go up because people are curious, and then it's a lot of fast content. So I've seen it, and if there's a similar video, I think I already saw it, so I'm not gonna look it twice. I'm on to the next thing. So everything is so fast. So I think that this then goes into the culture of a little bit of everything, right? Like the movies, the music, so the instructional stuff. You have to always kind of like cheat people into your system, and then once they're in the system, they will realize if this, like what they got themselves into is working or not. And a lot of people are getting tired of this because when you have abundance of everything, where are you going to go? You're going to go back to quality.
That's right. You have no choice.
Right. So now it's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of, hey, look here, colors here and there. And the delivery is poor most of the time. 100%. And that's been normalized now. It's like almost okay. I think this is going to switch, hopefully, because we will need it at one point to... Well,
I think everything will switch, as it always does. I think you metal guys are having your fucking moment, and it won't be forever.
No, and especially... Just when everybody is going to be able to play 300 BPMs, what's next? Because that's already happening.
So it comes back to, again, it comes back to context. It comes back to, like, if you're just talking about music, you need all this technique to execute the ideas, but the ideas need to make sense in a musical context for them to really be appreciated by the audience. Generally is not always musicians. It's typically not. They're just people that listen, right? And maybe it's different for the genres, but ultimately, like when you're playing, people are listening to music. They're not, you're not playing for musicians all the time. You have to play for. There's complexity and simplicity, and simplicity always wins. If people are just really hung up today with technique and doing wacky shit, that's just like it's out there, right? And it's very complex.
But that's what people understand now. They understand complexity. They don't understand quality.
They don't understand quality, right? So they're just interested in complexity because it's all there is that you're being shown. And it's just like I said, it's competitive and it's like a sport.
Because if I tell you do something difficult, it's kind of like what is difficult. But if I tell you do something beautiful,
exactly,
you're in a completely different world. How what does that mean? Like,
Right.
complicated most of the times means do a lot.
Complicated, and here's something I talk about all the time. Complexity and difficulty are very different, right? So difficulty could be, I drop a brick right here and I ask you to pick it up. It's difficult to pick up because it's heavy.
Yeah.
And if you apply complexity to that, then I figure out a way to use a machine and fucking ropes and shit to pick up. That's complexity, right?
Yeah.
You could do it both ways, but ultimately just get a little stronger and pick up the brick.
Pick up the brick without touching it.
Oh, you're right.
That's
but I'm saying,
complicated.
like, you don't have to be complex.
But I think because it's a superficial, because when there's a lot, you don't have time to go deep into things. So you create this culture, like superficial culture of, you know, a lot, like there's a little bit of everything. And so you don't get the depth of things. And I think it's just a cycle of, you know, how things work. And now with the internet, you have so much. You don't have to sit down and watch a movie for an hour and a half. In an hour and a half, I can consume content. I can learn 70 new things that I didn't know from 30 seconds Instagram video, which I don't even know if they're real or not. By the way,
even know if it's
but
real,
it doesn't matter if it, you know, if it sounds good enough. I'll say I know everything.
Nothing matters.
And I think like I always think, okay, let's go down that rabbit hole. Like, where does that take? Where everybody can play 300 BPMs, everybody can do the hard stuff. It's not special anymore.
Right.
Because, and that's already happening. Like,
so we're already there.
Double strokes on the bass drums.
Dude. We're there.
They figured out how to do press rolls on bass drums.
Right.
Now everybody can play 300 BPMs.
Right.
What's next? It's how you're going to use that. So I think
that
will shift, you know.
Well, and how you're going to make it sound good. Because I don't really care what you can do if it sounds like shit.
Yeah. So I think it's we're in the technical era of things, and then when, like, there's a reason why Nirvana will be, you know, a band that in 30, 40, 50 years
Simplicity,
people will,
probably.
I think it's just art. It's just like somebody had something to say, and he knew how to say it. Like, he only had one way of expressing it, and it touches other people. And that stays because it's a different level of depth.
I feel like it gets better. I find myself really getting more into it. Like,
that's funny you say that.
30 years later, I'm like, well, that's just good.
This was really good.
This is fucking good. I didn't like it that much then.
I had the same experience with an Italian band that I, for some reason, I started listening to one of these their albums like a month ago, and I was like, and I used to listen to this band when I was 16. I was like, this stuff was very good, man. Yeah. Like, I didn't realize at the time, and now I listen to it, I'm like, it's simple, but it's good.
Well,
and so
it's like Kurt died in '94. I was, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old. I remember I was in school. He died. We heard about it. I was like, I don't care. I'm like into Pearl Jam, and I'm into like Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, I listened to a lot of '90s rock. It was a bit influential, but at the time I wasn't like a huge fan. And then years later, I'm like, you know, I love the simplicity of this. I love the sonic quality of this. Like, I don't know. It's just.
I think this is the beginning of, we're very early on the stage of going back to that.
Well, I got to be honest. I mean, there's, you know, as technically amazing and complex as a lot of the music that comes out today is, I think it sounds like dog shit.
Yeah.
I think most of it sounds like absolute fucking dog shit.
Because it doesn't, it's not saying anything.
It says
it's not communicating.
It's not communicating with me. And like, it's
very cold.
And I'm a fan of technique. I'm a fan of people, but you got to know how to use it and when to insert and phrase and leave the space, and all these things come into play. And I'm just not getting that. I'm just getting wacky, highly compressed, goofy shit that's.
Yeah.
And I'm just very, very keen on hearing some good stuff. And it's out there. There's good stuff, but
There's
you get inundated. You get inundated with slop, and the slop is what's running the world, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and as we were saying, like, it's a lot of today's stuff is kind of like overwhelmed from the marketing that you have.
Yeah,
around.
of course.
Like a lot of the stuff, like, if you don't know how to recognize quality, there's somebody else that will tell you what's good and what's not. Right. So even the views, like, when you look at the video now, people are like noticing how many likes a comment of a video has or stuff like that, which is like, that was like stuff that you would only, not even big companies would notice that 10 years ago, not even 8 years ago. And now, and all the engagement, everybody knows. So everybody's looking for, you know, the validation of things. So if it comes from that source, it's validated. And if it has this amount of likes, it's validated. And if it's doing this, if it's going that fast, it's validated. And if it's playing with that band, and if it has that, it's validated. There's really no, and I think it goes back to the depth of things. People don't spend enough time. But
this has always been the way it's been. It's just now it's so much bigger and magnified. I mean, you were always dictated to by whether it was radio or TV, and marketing always has put things in your face and made you think that that's what's the good stuff because of marketing. But now it's a million times that, and that's what we're getting.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, it could have been, they could have been in the 70s, they were spinning music on the radio and telling you this is the popular shit. And there was other underground shit.
But it was also
different.
Better. It was also different because the filter before, and this is a Denzel Washington sentence, not, but
oh, I love Denzel.
I love Denzel. He said, back in the days, you have to be good to become somebody.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Now you just have to kind of like be a clown to be somebody.
Yeah, you just got to be clown.
Yeah, and so it goes back to, you know, the marketing part of things, and then the delivery of the product. It doesn't matter the product anymore. And people I feel like they also don't matter of what they're getting out of. They're just, as long as they're, you know, also because once you're in a situation, you kind of convince yourself that you're in the right place, because you don't want to admit that you have to go back and be, oh, I got fooled.
Do you think, I think probably a lot of people don't know, you're Italian. You're from Italy.
Yes.
I mean, I know that. And I think we've talked about this many times. Do you think it's, obviously this is global culture, but do you think if you take the American part out of it, and like me and you have this conversation with a bunch of Europeans, whether they're Italian, French, Spanish, whatever, you're going to get a little further. Don't you think that there's still like a little bit more of an artisan kind of appreciation?
I'll tell you.
Outside of the U.S.?
I'll give you two answers to this question. So as a European and as an Italian, you grow up surrounded by art,
right?
And you don't realize that it affects you, right? Because there's just the churches and everything is like
normal, like,
and so that has like that, you develop certain articulations of things and blah 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 because you're surrounded by that. But this is the main question that I always get from Americans, especially, where they go like, okay, you've lived in Italy and now you've been living in the US for like 10 years. Let's talk about the pizza, right? And this sums up the cultural difference, in my opinion. In Italy, to have a pizza, like to enjoy a good pizza, you need just 3 ingredients, but they have to be the right ingredients, cooked in the right way, and blah blah. And so it's about the olive oil, it's about the cheese, it's about the tomato, it's about here. And so it's about the quality. There are like a few things, but the right things cooked in the right way. Yeah. And over here in the US, I feel like you have, you know, the Domino's pizza where you have double cheese crust with 5 toppings, and you put the sauce on top and blah, blah, blah. And the question is like, what are you tasting out of that compared to what are you tasting out of the Italian way of the pizza experience? And that's what made me realize that like the pizza experience in the US is like about the quantity. They want a lot for whatever the price. And in Italy, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And that's why I think, you know, this in my experience is that it does shape a little bit the cultures, of course, you know. And so I don't know if that answers the question. And I'm not saying one thing is better than the other. I'm just saying it's different things. And so people are looking for different, and a lot of the times I see American people that go to Italy with the high expectations of these type of things, and they're disappointed because they don't understand it. They don't understand that. Right.
That's a great analogy.
Same, the Italians in the US, they go like, oh, I had the worst pizza in my life and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, and because they don't understand what, you know, the difference.
I think we're all going to agree that the Italians know how to make pizza better than the people at Domino's, though, at the end of the day. But it's
a different experience.
You're spot on. You're spot on.
Yes, because like the culture over there, they spend so much time.
Of course.
You know.
Of course.
So yes, but I still enjoy Domino's pizza. I don't know. I didn't have a Domino's pizza for a long time, but I still enjoy, American food, and I love it here.
No, I know you do.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's just.
So, yeah,
we get to have the best of both worlds because
exactly. Yes.
You just go to Italy when you want to get that.
Yes.
And
yeah, so that's what I think it's what shapes the different cultures, as you said. It's a global culture now, and I feel the quantity, it's easier to understand than the quality.
100%.
Right?
100%.
And so that's what we're living through now. And this is just me observing, what we're going through. And I don't like to say, oh, this is better or that's better. I have my own way of doing things, and I am a believer, or what I like to, like the way I like to live things is what's the result, right? If I have all this great theory, and this is the problem of too much knowledge and theory, all this theory, but nothing in as a result, in a practical way, it's nothing,
right,
to me.
I agree.
And so that's also why I maybe I like the US a little bit more, because there's more hands-on experience here. Sure. Like here you get to do things, and
there's a lot going on.
Yes. And in Italy, that's one of the reasons why I left Italy, was because it was the system over there. It's kind of like a little bit against you, because it's hard to do anything, over there. And also, like, there's a lot of academic culture, which is great because people study and they know things, but then it's very hard to get things going because there's too much theory and so that's just my experience, at least.
Well, I would agree with you. Let's ask a couple questions here. Who would you say inspires you today? Now, it could be drummers, could be anybody, right? Like what's inspiring to James Payne today?
To me, that's always a difficult question, because even as growing up, a lot of my idols were not drummers, for example. And my drumming idols weren't my drumming idols because they were good drummers. They were not good, they were good drummers, but they weren't the best drummers. It was just something that... so I don't really have somebody or something that it's inspiring me. I honestly don't know how to answer to these questions. I know it's a weird thing, but
it's a good answer.
I like to read a lot of books, and I have authors that I always, like, I read books to get the as much knowledge as possible, and then when I go through my life, I go back and be like, oh, this author talked about this in that book, so I know I can that is an author that relates to how I'm living life, and so I go back to those type of authors and read more books of those guys. But inspiring, I don't know, honestly.
That's okay.
It's I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but it's just I can't think of somebody that I look up to and be like, oh, I want to, I just try to be the best version of myself that I can be, and that's what so I look a lot of myself, I compare a lot of myself today to what I was before, and try to get better, more than looking outside and finding inspiration in things. Yeah.
Since you mentioned books, give me one that anybody should read that you think is...
a book that anybody should read, it really depends. My experience with books was like I started reading books because I had a lot of questions. I had way more questions than answers in my life. And
do you read English books or Italian books or both?
Well, I do both, but mostly English.
Mostly English.
And there was at one point there was one book that really, like, spoke to me. I was like, it shut my mind off, and I would just listen to it.
Really?
And it changed a lot. But the reason why that happened, it was because that book was answering all the questions that I had in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just, so it's not a book that I would say everybody should read. It was the right book at the right time. So, and then that's what I said that to all my friends. I was like, oh, you have to read this book. Read this book. This will change your life. And they read it and they were like, yeah, I get it. A lot of the things didn't impress me. And I was like, oh, so I guess, like a book that I know it will make a difference for people would be like Think Fast and Slow from Daniel Kahneman, which is a neuroscientific. He won a Nobel Prize for economic something, blah, blah, blah. And that book's talk about system 1 and system 2 of the brain. The system 1 is 1 + 1 = 2, so it's all the fast thinking, and system 2 is 342 times 72, and you have to have a process of, going through operations of thinking, and that's the system 2 of the brain, and that talks about how our brain works as human beings. So if you want to understand a little bit better how we work, that's a great book. And it's a little bit, when I read these books, some of these books are very complicated books in the sense that if you're not,
that's definitely one of them.
If you're not part of that field, it's hard to. So if I understand 50% of the book, I'm happy. Still, I got enough information for me to be like, wow. And that I read those books, especially for drummers, like to apply in my drumming stuff. But then it really, resonates with everything in life.
I'm going to give you one, which is Power versus Force.
Yes.
Author Hawkins or Dawkins, I'm drawing blank. I have a couple of his books, but Power versus Force is a very, very interesting book.
Nice.
You may like it.
I will
give that a shot. It's got some concepts in there that are...
The title, I already like.
Yeah. No, it's right up your alley. And he talks about a lot of different things and some cool systems. Okay. What are you doing to take care of yourself these days? Like for your health?
I go to the gym. I walk. I try to eat in a balanced way.
Yeah.
And I try to have routines for when I'm on tour or when I'm home, so that I don't get lost throughout the days. And I try to sleep, which I'm not good at. I try to rest, and I have a very hard time resting.
Tell me about the walking, because LA is not. I mean, of course you can walk in LA, but most people wind up not. What do you?
It's the first thing I do in the morning. I wake up at 6:30 and I go for a walk.
Do you really?
Yes.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. And that's where I listen to my audiobooks and podcasts. Now I'm more on audiobooks. I don't.
Yeah, a lot of people
listen to podcasts a lot anymore. I listen to podcasts only if I'm interested in the subject of whatever the podcast, because it's a format that I think it's been now taken as, hey, I am popular and I'm just gonna do my podcast. And I, for example, appreciate and I love how certain of these people think. But if you're good at something, I'm not going to listen to your podcast on a subject that you have nothing, really. So it's always, so even also that has been, it's something that it's been now used in a way that it's just like, it's whatever.
Yeah, it's another marketing vehicle for people.
Yes, exactly.
It's exactly what I'm doing here.
No, you're doing something different because you are.
Yeah, no, I get it. I feel the same way.
But just the fact that you are taking so many different, artists and people like from different background. It's not only drums. It's not. It's just like you are curious about concepts of what works in different people in different fields.
Sure.
That's interesting because you are taking not the expert, but somebody that is doing something and you want to get into their world. So
Yeah.
that's specific, and I love that.
100%.
But all these other, big names that are just doing podcasts, I'm like, I got a little bit tired of that. But audiobooks, so in the first thing in the morning, I do that. And yeah, I go on the hills. I mean, I love this city. I know. When I moved here, I was like, oh, these things really exist.
Yeah,
I thought it was only a movie set. Like,
it's a cool place.
And because I grew up in Italy in a small town, so I only saw this on television.
Yeah.
And when I got here, I was like, oh, people really live like this over here. Interesting. And I never got used to it. So it's, even today, still walking around the city, cool. I'm like, like a little baby in this movie set. Yeah.
I love it, man. All right, last one for you. What's your non-negotiable every day?
Working. Playing drums, probably. If I don't
play every day?
Every day.
Yeah?
Yeah. If I don't play every day, I feel like my day isn't complete. Type of thing.
That's
and
awesome.
If I don't play, it has to be because I have other important things that are, that are, because are important, it's okay for me to skip my playing.
Okay.
And it's just something that I've been doing every day for 15 years, and it's it's what I do also.
It's what you do. Yeah. It's your thing. Yeah.
I have to play, and as I was saying, like, having a routine is also something that is super important. But yeah, playing, I would say playing and working constantly. By working, I mean putting another brick in my constructions that I'm doing, in the things that I'm building. Yes.
I love it, brother. I love it. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, how they can find you? And
yes, I have my Instagram, James_WP. I have my Facebook page, James Payne Drummer. I have my website where I spend most of my time on, jamespaynedrums.com. We have a forum over there. People can, go there and write in there. And YouTube, I have James Payne YouTube channel. So almost every platform. And yeah, I have TikTok now. I don't even know just
who knows?
Yes.
Yeah, who knows your handle on TikTok?
Yeah, James Payne Drums, and from there you can find all the other links.
Well,
awesome.
It's always a pleasure, dude.
Same here, man.
Thank you for coming through, and
thank you for having me. And I love what you're doing. Yes,
I appreciate it. Yeah. And let's have a glass of wine or something.
Italian wine.
Always.
Always.
Thank you again, guys. James Payne. What else can I say?
Thank you, Freddy.